Our next speaker of the evening needs no introduction. He is an eminent intellectual scholar, author, orator, and researcher. He is listed as one of the 500 most influential Muslims around the world. He is a visiting scholar to the prestigious institutions like Columbia University, Harvard University, and Cambridge University. He previously held the Imam Ali Chair of Shia Studies and Dialogue among Islamic legal schools at Hartford Seminary. He is actively involved in promoting women's rights initiatives, social development, and religious tolerance. He is also famously known to support leading charity organizations and initiatives. He uses his position to speak for the preservation of cultural heritage, historical art and architecture, and literature. He is a powerful voice of our times, and especially for a youth like me who derives inspiration to follow the path of righteousness. He visited Bangalore 3 years back for Hussain Day 2017, and his speech on the topic of Islah, reconciliation, is something very important following the current world scenario. He teaches us to win over hate with love. He also visited St. Joseph's College in Bangalore during his last visit and spoke on the theme Uniting Hearts, and he received a standing ovation by the young audience. I welcome Dr. Syed Ammar Nakshawani, eminent intellectual scholar, orator, and researcher, to deliver his powerful sermon as he always does.
In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise is due to the Lord, Master of all the worlds. And peace and blessings be on his holy prophets. From Adam to Muhammad, peace be upon him and his holy family. My respected brothers and sisters around the world, my respected brothers and sisters in India, my respected brothers and sisters in humanity, I bid you the Islamic greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I wish that all of us had been together at this time to honor the service of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. No doubt, when I came to Bangalore a couple of years ago, I saw the hospitality of the people of India, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Swami, who had passed away only so recently, may God bless his soul, highlighted to me how many of us can come together through the love of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam and through the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. For it's a message that transcends religions and allows all human beings to realize that Hussain bin Ali was without a doubt a divinely inspired personality, and a personality who we need more than ever before today. Because with Corona, many of us have begun to reflect upon our physical health. But many of us at the same time have begun to reflect upon our spiritual health. How many people have begun to ask questions regarding their mental health, regarding how they are feeling, regarding their strength in the face of the trials and tribulations that they all have to see? But how many at the same time are asking themselves questions concerning their physical health? And these questions concerning our physical health also relate to our mental health. Because in this period, the physical and the mental are intertwined. There are some who find it difficult to live in a world where they cannot socialize with one another. They cannot go to the same restaurants as one another. Their businesses aren't doing as well. Their family life is being affected. And so for all of us, we are now looking for an exemplar of how a person is able to face trials, tribulations, not only with their mental toughness, but with their physical health. And there is none better than Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. For on the plains of Karbala, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam saw the meaning of physical trial and mental trial. Physical trial in the sense that a person is deprived of water. And mental trial in the sense, the anguish that a person has to go through in seeing members of their family killed in front of them. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, therefore, when we look at the title, service to humanity, inspiration from the life of Imam al-Hussain and the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, there is so much from the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, especially on the plains of Karbala, that we're able to apply in this current pandemic. If we were to examine certain areas of the life of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, every human being, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, all of us can come together in this period and benefit from the wonderful lessons of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Lessons which every human being can relate to, irrespective of whether they worship in a mosque, in a temple, in a gurdwara, or in a synagogue. Someone asks, what are these lessons? Which lessons can we apply from the life of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam that have been a wonderful service to humanity? On the first level, there is no forgiveness like the forgiveness of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. In this day and age, when we've seen how weak many of us really are, although we thought we were the strongest, how weak many of us really are, and how we needed friends and family in these difficult periods of isolation and quarantine, this may be a period where a person thinks about forgiving those who they have never forgiven, forgiving those who they postponed forgiveness to. And so when we look at Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, his forgiving nature is the first of the lessons which are an inspiration and a service to humanity. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, the way he forgave one of the commanders of the armed forces that were there to kill him, can never ever be emulated exactly, but can certainly be taken as a lesson in our life. None of us can reach a level where we will forgive the person who has blocked us and our young children from drinking water. None of us. But I'll tell you what, if we can forgive people who have done half of that, we've done well. Because when Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam forgave Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, Hur was the commander of the opposition and the man who had blocked the access to the Euphrates for the family and the children of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussain gave a message to humanity that when someone realizes they've wronged you and they come to you asking for forgiveness, open up your heart and forgive them. Seek a way in which you can welcome them back. When Hur came to Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam and said to him, "Oh Hussain, forgive me for blocking the water from your children. Forgive me, for I did not know exactly what they wanted." At that moment, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam gives us the most inspirational message that every human being can relate to. If this was in a Hollywood film, like Gladiator, or like The Last Samurai, all of us would look at it and say, look at that great moment where a commander was able to forgive those who had wronged him. And Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is real, unlike the Hollywood films. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam looks at Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, whose mother had named him Hur, the free. And he tells him, I've forgiven you, for you are free in this world and free in the hereafter. That lesson, the first lesson, is a wonderful service to humanity and an inspiration from Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Why? Because how many of us living in this day and age, looking at how fickle we are, still will not forgive our sister who has wronged us? Still will not be forgiving of our parents who may have wronged us, our cousins who may have wronged us, our friends who may have wronged us, and of those, some of them have come back to us and said, please forgive me for what I've done. How many of us are ready to forgive? And yet a true Hussaini, and someone who realizes the message and understands the message and applies the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, is someone who will look at that moment and say, that do not worry, I forgive you. Therefore, the first lesson that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam gives back to humanity is which lesson? Is the lesson of forgiveness. The second lesson, how many of us, because of quarantine, cannot think straight? How many of us see our businesses fall? Our mental strength is tested. In some cases, we have mental health issues, and we're scared to talk about them. And you look at Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, the second service he gave to humanity. Whenever you're going through distress or difficulties, turn to God and speak to God. Don't worry, God is all hearing and all seeing. Can you imagine Imam Hussain alayhi salam going through his trials and tribulations on the plains of Karbala over 1,000 years ago? And he reads a supplication to his Lord in his most difficult moment. How many of us reject God when things are going bad for us? How many of us question the existence of God when things are going bad for us? And yet Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam raises his hands in humility to his Lord. Oh Allah, I turn to you in every distress. And you are my hope in every difficulty. And whenever a matter descends upon me, you are my supporter. And you are my preparation. And how many issues are there that weaken the heart, where your friends desert you and your enemies taunt you? But I turn to you, oh Allah. I complain to you. I refer to you. I leave it with you. For who else is there other than you? This supplication of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, you are my hope in every difficulty. And I turn to you in every distress. This supplication, how many humans don't know who to talk to in this difficult time? Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam taught a message to every human being. Know that your Lord is always listening, even if so many others are not. That was a service. Why? Because there are many of us mentally, the difficulties that we face, we feel the whole world caves in upon us. We feel that when it's caved in on us, there is no way out. The distress is too much. The difficulties, our enemies are making fun of us. Our friends have deserted us. Imam al-Hussain said, but don't let that worry you. God's there for you. And while God's there for you, whether you are a Muslim or a non-Muslim, talk to God. Open up, for God is the most kind and the most merciful. I ask you, somebody who's lost his brothers and his children and his nephews and his best friends, would they still turn around to God and say, I only talk to you and leave it to you and refer to you? What mental strength did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam have? But the reality is, if you're the son of Ali, you'll have the greatest strength mentally. How many of us focus on our physical strength, the biceps and the triceps and the six-pack, and the supplements and the nutrients, but we've forgotten, can we have the mental strength at a time of trial and tribulation? And in reality, our trial with COVID and the coronavirus is nothing compared to the trial of Karbala. And yet Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, in that trial, never once says, why God? Why me? Why are you doing this to me? On the contrary, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam is proud. Oh God, I submit to your will. This is your divine plan. That submission in accepting that a trial builds you and helps you grow is something unique and something valuable for us more than ever at this time. What else is there that we can look at, my dear brothers and sisters? What else? The third lesson in service to humanity is that every human being, irrespective of their religious background, should have access to basic resources like water. The grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his family, dies thirsty. How many rivers are there like the Tigris and the Euphrates? And how many other rivers are there in the world where you find that human beings should have access to them, to drink from them? And yet, sadly, how many human beings in the world are deprived from being able to drink clean water? If ever there was a lesson, an inspiration from Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and that was, don't ever deprive anybody, friend or foe, from drinking clean water. On the streets of India today, there are places you cannot drink clean water. In parts of Iraq, there are places you can't drink clean water. In parts of Africa, there are people who can't imagine having access to water without walking 2-3 miles. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, ask anybody who loves Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, they'll always tell you he was deprived of water. And yet God had always said to us, water should be accessible to every human being. And that the water of Zamzam was that which flourished so that a prophet of God was able to live and another was able to be patient and survive. And yet, isn't it sad in the world today that there are human beings still deprived of water? If ever there was a lesson from Imam al-Hussain that was an inspiration from his message, Don't deprive anybody of water, even if it's a 6-month-old baby. Imam al-Hussein's own 6-month-old baby was deprived of drinking water on the plains of Karbala, where he put forward the baby. And he said, one of you quench his thirst. How many mothers on the streets of Hyderabad or Mumbai have begged for their children to also have something clean to eat or something clean to drink? I don't care if that mother is Hindu or Sikh. At the end of the day, when we have a day called Hussain Day, and we've been doing this for 27 years, our aim is to not only make Indian society prosper, but to the whole of mankind prosper from the lesson of the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. No human on this earth, whatever race or background, should be deprived of natural resources like clean water. That's on the 3rd level. On the 4th level, Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam highlighted every child should be allowed to have a flourishing adolescence, in turn a flourishing career, in turn a flourishing family life, and not one where they are harassed and mistreated. The 4th service to humanity was what? Was that don't ever forget my children. Don't let your children walk on the streets and sleep homeless in the night. Do you know that Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam's children slept homeless for days after days? Do you know that Imam al-Hussein's children were paraded on the streets like beggars? And how many human beings are there who still beg on the streets of India and other streets? Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, in his message, and the message of his children, was don't let these street children end up as beggars working for gangs, where gangs force them to go out and beg. And at the end, those children grow up without any education whatsoever. A society where children are begging, where gangs are ruling, is a society that will never prosper. When we see that there are children from Africa or from India who beg on the streets working for gangs, that's something we all have to come together and stop. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam's own children were forced as captives to walk on the streets like some street children are forced today. If ever there was a lesson, and this being the 4th, is let the children grow and flourish. Is it right? Is it fair? Is it just that me and you are able to go to schools and colleges and universities? And there are some children who could never imagine writing on a piece of paper because of the oppression that they faced. Believe you me, sometimes this world is arbitrary. I could have been born in one of the ghettos in Mumbai. And you could have been born in one of the poshest areas in London. Just because I'm in London, I should not be ungrateful. And just because you're in Mumbai, you shouldn't have people who don't think about you and don't stand up for your rights. The 4th lesson, don't let there be children on the streets who end up begging the way we see children begging today. The 5th lesson, integral in the growth of our society, are the women in our communities. Who is it that made sure that this lecture could happen today? Some might say Agha Sultan. Others might say the members of the Hussain Day team. Others might refer to the volunteers and those who work behind the scenes. If it wasn't for Zainab, sister of Hussain alayhi salam, would we have heard of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam? Who do you think saved this religion at the beginning? Her grandmother Khadija alayhi salam. Who ensured that the religion continued? Her mother Fatima alayhi salam. Who ensured that her message and the message of her grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussain was there for all to see? Zainab alayhi salam. Zainab, sister of Hussain, highlighted, were it not for the ladies who were present at Karbala, we would not know the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. It's a shame when I see in our mosques the ladies not given a say. It's a shame when I see in some of our centers ladies ridiculed or looked down upon. It's a shame when you see some parts of humanity who say it's wrong for a lady to get educated, or it's wrong for a lady to vote. When, believe you me, were it not for the ladies on the plains of Karbala, would we ever have heard about Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam? Never. But these ladies highlighted that Islam could never have survived without the voice of Zainab telling Yazid, the dictator of her time, "Oh Yazid, although the plight has made me speak to you, I find speaking to you of little value, but I find scolding you is great. Therefore I'll continue to scold you." That lady Zainab highlighted the power of the female and how we should never look down at the ladies or the sisters or the wives in our community. How many are domestically abused, emotionally and physically? Would Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam have accepted that we become like Shimr and Umar bin Sa'ad with our ladies? When Shimr and Umar bin Sa'ad were rude to the ladies, when Shimr and Umar bin Sa'ad insulted the ladies, when we then do the same, are we not Shimr and Umar bin Sa'ad again? Therefore, the fifth lesson, service to humanity, inspiration from the life of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, is that ensure that the woman has as many rights as you do. Yes, maybe socially, different places dictate different norms, but spiritually both of you can reach the same level. The sixth lesson, racism and the importance of removing racism. Imam al-Hussain, on the plains of Karbala, those who stood alongside him, some were from Medina, some were from Mecca, some were from Iraq, some were from Africa. Did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam say, "My army is only an Arab army"? Did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam stand up and say that the Arab is above everybody else? Or did he say that which differentiates us as humans is God consciousness, otherwise we're all the same? Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam has a companion by the name of John. He's from Africa. Has a companion by the name of Habib. He's from Kufa. Has other companions who have come from other parts of the Muslim community and background. Some were even Christian before and they became Muslim. There was no racism in the message of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Imam would look at the cheek of the one of a different color and place his cheek on their cheek. Why? Because he wanted to highlight a good human being is one who does not racially look down at others. For that is a sign of arrogance, ostentatiousness, and self-conceit. How many do we see racist bigots in the world today who profile you on the basis of your color? And how many are the victims of racism by people who supposedly are educated and turn out to be the most ignorant? The next lesson, what is it? The importance of our youth and empowering our youth. When I see the likes of Agha Sultan empowering the youth and pushing the youth, our youth are our future. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam would always say and make clear that don't look down at the youth. Look alongside him, one side Akbar, another side Qasim, amongst others who were youths. But Imam al-Hussain put them forward because he trusted the youth. Have we trusted our youth the same way? Or is it when we see our youth, we always try and be judgmental of them, look down at them, say they're not ready? Did Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam say to Qasim, "You're not ready"? Or did Qasim say, "Death is sweeter to me than honey"? Did Imam al-Hussain look down at Ali al-Akbar? He wanted to highlight that the teens and the youth, they are our future. There are too many places in the world who don't give that importance to the youth. And if ever there was a message of humanity, and the message of Imam Hussain was to the youth. Another message, the rights of the animal, not just the rights of the human. The rights of the animal. Many times people will give lectures on Imam al-Hussein's service to humanity, but forget that Imam al-Hussain sought to serve every creation of God. For in the service of the creation, you are serving the Creator. Dhul Janah, the horse of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, was thirsty. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam was thirsty. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam did not turn around and say, that's a horse, that's a dog, that's a cat, kick it, don't give it water, push it away. No. My horse is thirsty, let me offer my horse some water. Why did he do that? Because if you can't learn to love God's creations, then you can never build a healthy society of humans. How many of us, when we were younger, we see friends of us kicking animals? How many of us have seen even some friends of ours even dissecting an animal without any feeling that this is a creation of God? And we're told when we visit the house of God, we cannot even kill that mosquito that comes on our ihram. There is a need for us to feel the energy of the human, but the energy of the animal kingdom as well. And there are so many religions in the world that resonate on their understanding that you respect the creations, the plants, the animals, the humans, you will have a better society. And the Quran says, we will not change a group of people until they change from themselves. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam could have easily neglected the horse. He's thirsty, his lips are dry, as per the words of his son Ali al-Akbar. Your lips, father, are drier than mine. And yet Imam al-Hussain highlighted that no, on the contrary, this horse is a creation of God. And we will be asked about every creation, human and non-human. Another of the lessons from Karbala, and I could go on, my dear brothers and sisters in Bangalore, and wherever you may be listening. Another of the lessons of Karbala, even if you don't believe in God, and you don't believe in a day of judgment, at least try and be a good human. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam lying on the ground, arrows all over his body, looking like a hedgehog. They wonder, is he dead? Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he alive? All of a sudden, you found that one of them called out, attack his woman. And then you'll see if he is dead or alive. The moment they said that, he tried to get up. And then he called out, O army of Yazid, if you don't believe in God or a day of judgment, you don't fear God or fear the day of judgment, then at least be free humans. What have these women done wrong to you? This is a wonderful point of humanity. That even if we don't agree with each other on our conception of God, resurrection, reincarnation, energy, but we still have basic morality that we should never lose. And of that basic morality is that the woman folk and the children of our societies are to be looked after. Imam al-Hussain is telling the army that's killing him, even if you don't agree with me, don't harm these ladies. But how low and despicable was that army that they went ahead and whipped and kicked all of these ladies. A society that loses its moral fabric is a dead society, no longer humans. We become lower than the animals. Because what's human potential? We can be higher than angels, lower than animals. There are some human beings who are lower than an animal. An example being Yazid bin Muawiyah. And there are some who became higher than angels. Not just higher than angels. The angels would cry when they'd remember. And that's why the final lesson to all of humanity is what? Don't live a life of humiliation. Rather die a death of dignity. Luther King, dignity. Malcolm X, dignity. Mahatma Gandhi, dignity. How many others died having been shot? But their death with dignity was better than a life of humiliation. Were not those the words of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam? Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam highlighted that you as a human being, don't leave this world humiliated. Leave with your head held up high, where you've thought about the anguish others face mentally, and you've forgiven, and you've looked after the rights of the human and the rights of the animal. You made sure that there's no children on the street who beg, and that the women are given a voice, and that the youth are empowered, and that no one looks down at each other racially. With all of these lessons, it's only a glimpse of the lessons of Karbala and Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Therefore, if we can just apply some of those lessons, then without a doubt, we'll have a world where the grandson of Hussain alayhi salam ensures that one day there's peace and prosperity for all human beings, irrespective of their religion, race, or indeed gender. My dear brothers and sisters in Bangalore, my Muslim and non-Muslim brethren, may God bless all of you. Please do not forget me in your prayers. And may we all visit one day the shrine of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. For visiting that shrine, according to narrations, is like visiting the throne of God. Not literally. But if you want to feel and understand the manifestation of God's mercy on this earth, you go near the shrine of the likes of Hussain. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
मोहतरम नाजरीन, आलमी शोहरत याफ्ता खतीब डॉक्टर सैयद अम्मार नक्शवानी साहब आपसे मुखातिब थे। यकीनन मौसूफ का एक एक फ़िक्रा, एक एक जुमला, एक एक लफ्ज़, एक एक हर्फ नूरानी था और हमारे दिलों पर पूरी तरह से असर कर रहा था। आपकी खिदमत अक़दस में मैं शुक्र का नजराना पेश करते हुए खुदा की बारगाह में दुआ करता हूँ, अल्लाह पाक दुनिया की हर बला से आपको महफूज फरमाए। यूं ही आप दीन की, इस्लाम की, इंसानियत की, मौला के चाहने वालों की खिदमत अंजाम देते रहें। आमीन। आइए अजीज़ों, जैसे कि हमने आपकी खिदमत में अर्ज़ किया,